My name's Richard Fyfe, and I'm one of the directors and trustees of Culbokie Community Trust, and I've been involved since the inception of CCT. I was chair for 5 years or thereabouts, but I stepped down from that role and passed it on. So that's and I've lived in Culbokie for 20 odd years, so consider myself a bit of a local now. Culbokie Community Trust was actually formed in 2014, but that was before that. We'd been talking as a group of folk within the village about the local development plan, and had seen a site which was identified for community use within the plan, which is where we are right now in Culbokie Green, what is now Culbokie Green. But when the opportunity came up that this might be for sale, this field, we formed Culbokie Community Trust with a view to creating a vehicle that would allow us to put in an application to community right to buy. One of the things that we discussed and felt was a real issue is the lack of a centre for the village. The village is quite a long, strung-out village without that focus, and we wanted to look at this site here and create something that would become a focus for the village, and not just for the village, but for the wider Black Isle, or for visitors as well, to create a facility on here. The site here was in the right place, and it was also the right sort of size to create something on, but it couldn't just be what the trustees wanted, so we went out to consultation to see what people really wanted within the village, and then to turn that into some sort of sense and reality, because let's face it, we couldn't have an Olympic-sized swimming pool that converts into an ice rink. It had to be within the bounds of sensibility, but at the same time, it had to meet the needs of the community. And this area was in the right place, and the links to the community, and it's also very visible from the public road that drives right through Culbokie as well. So it's open to anyone who is driving past, and it's very obvious. Research suggests that this area, this field, was at one time used as a market, and there was I don't know how many times a year, but people would come here and gather in the village for that. And before we developed the site, we did got some metal detectorists to come along, and they swept over it. They did find, I think it was a silver shoe buckle, an old silver threepence or sixpence or something like that. From, so there is a little bit of history there. But generally speaking, it was an agricultural piece of land. I believe at one point part of it was a market garden as well. But by the time we came to look at it, it had been left derelict, if you like. It hadn't been anything planted or on it for quite a number of years, maybe 20 years. So it was just a rank grass and gorse, whins, as we would say here. The green was always intended and is intended to be a gathering place for people within the community, to give that focus. Hence the fact that behind me here is the shelter, or amfasach, that it's a place where people can come. Even on a day like this, they can come and sit and just enjoy it. Or we've held a few events, like our Halloween event. There was a summer games event that we had earlier on in the year. It's also been used by the local scouts and beavers and cubs and so on, as well as the school too. So it is developing that reputation and use as a place to gather. And that's a nice reflection, perhaps, of the fact that it was historically a gathering place for the market in Culbokie. The site itself, Culbokie Green, is about, I think it's just less than a hectare, about 0.8 or something like that, the actual land area. But within that, there's also the sustainable urban drainage basin, which is behind me there, which will eventually be vested in Scottish Water. Currently, it's Tulloch Homes that own that. But within this, we want to develop a number of different assets. The shelter, which is behind me. There's a outdoor table tennis table. There's the community orchard, which the children of Culbokie Primary School helped us plant the trees in the community orchard when we set that up. And we also created a pollinator bed. The whole philosophy here was to create what you might describe as a green lung within the village, a sustainable area for biodiversity. So we do have a wildflower meadow area as well as a pollinator bed to attract insects. And the results from that this year in terms of the pollinator count were fantastic. Seeing the number of bees and other insects that the area has attracted is really encouraging to see that you can get that kind of biodiversity here. The other thing we've developed on here is the potting shed, which allows us the crew, the green team that looks after this area, to store their equipment and have their wee cup of tea on when we're having a maintenance session. We've also developed some toilets which are publicly available as well. Eventually we hope to develop a multi-use space within it as well, which will have treatment rooms, meeting rooms, as well as a community cafe. But those are future developments and are subject to funding in the future. Some of the other projects that we do, we've got we run the sharing shed at the other end of the village on a different piece of ground. We also run a monthly community market in the village hall. We run a number of other things like a woods group that do some path maintenance work, and we have a fundraising group as well, because we need to maintain our activities, and they recently ran the Black Isle Food and Drink Festival, which was an enormous success. One thing I should have mentioned is the amount of community involvement and consultation that's gone into developing this. We've also obviously involved landscape architects and architects as well in terms of what we've done to develop this. It's been an enormous amount of effort, and it's all volunteer effort. We have no paid staff. Just to develop the toilet block and potting shed, we did a rough estimate, and we think that if you add up all the volunteer effort that went into that, it's about 2-person years of actual volunteer effort. The green team that maintains the facility here, there's probably about 8, maybe 10 folk coming along regularly to that. Sometimes, if the weather's really miserable, then there's maybe a few less turnout. But I think people appreciate the sociability of it as well, and it's just something that you do in your week. We do get new members come along from time to time, especially if people are walking past and see us working on here, then we can engage with them and chat with them, and we've certainly gleaned new members to come along. We've tried to maintain a clear vision of what we want to develop here on this site, and we've been pretty successful thus far with what we've done. Just watching the green develop and mature in terms of the trees, in terms of the pollinator bed, we've seen a remarkable 18 months since we planted out the pollinator bed. I think our vision for it is that we will see that continue and to be maintained as a green area within the village.